Hi students, this is Ms. Wiley again. This is part 2 of our video lecture over Chapter 2, Population. We just have a little bit more to talk about, but I wanted to make sure we did mention the complexity of what's happening with our aging populations and countries that are having a lower birth rate now. They're having more people that are growing older, they're living longer, having longer life expectancies, but that does put a stress on the economy, especially for the working class, because then they have to support all of this large growing population of elderly people. And that can put a stress on the economy and on the job market, may encourage more immigration, it may cause the government to do more population policies, which we'll talk about in just a second. And again, this is gonna focus more on countries in Europe, but also Japan has a high elderly dependency ratio. The other thing that is important to consider is, again, what are some possible solutions, but what are some of the things that we haven't ever seen within the history of the earth? And that's going to be things with our chronic diseases. So if you remember, the epidemiologic transition model goes similar to the DTM, but it's going to be related to diseases or illnesses that you find. And in those stage 4 and 5 countries, you find more chronic diseases, things like heart disease, certain cancers, stroke. You will find a higher percentage of diabetes in countries that have a better diet because they're eating things that maybe aren't as good for us and having ill effects as a result of that. Alzheimer's is a disease that older people get where they forget things, they're losing their memory. And those are things you do not find in countries that are developing, where people die before they reach age 50 or 60. This is things you find in those developed countries of the world, like Japan, like European countries, and France and Germany, Italy. So governments are trying to do some things to affect population. And this doesn't have to be just the aging populations of Japan and in European countries. It can also be countries like China and India, where they're trying to restrict the population or bring it down. So our 3 types of population policies are expansive, eugenic, and restrictive. Expansive and restrictive are the ones you're going to find the most readily available or most obvious. So again, these try and encourage population growth, or a pro-natalist. Natology is like this, is babies, is the neonatology is like a study of premature babies or babies in general. So if you're a pro-natalist, you're pro-baby. You may also encourage expansive population policies like encouraging immigration. That will also do it. A eugenic policy is something you find somewhat in Japan. It's also been the past, like with the Nazis, where it's when you favor one particular race or ethnicity and you don't encourage immigration of other people into that country. Restrictive population policies are one that like China and India have done, where you encourage birth control or you encourage no immigration at all. Anti-natalist would be another way of saying it. And so China, of course, has their one-child policy, which they have now increased to a 2-child policy. It's important to understand that because they were having so many negative ramifications of that one-child policy, and again, a male preference. India has, as we said earlier in the first video, has tried to do certain programs to limit population, like sterilization and gun licenses. They haven't really worked in a democratic government of India. So they're just trying to encourage more natural family planning, birth control, those kind of things. They have very available clinics and availability of birth control. China has been much more strict in terms of saying we will take care of your child, but we will only take care of one child. So if you have more than one child, you're taking care of it. You have to put it through school. You have to take care of its medical expenses. You have to take care of it. They've now increased that to a 2-child policy, and that's helped a little bit in terms of people. They were having some problems with baby girls being killed or being given away for adoption, and having some consequences with having more males than females. So they've changed that a bit, and that has helped. So hopefully this video has been helpful for you in terms of understanding population. Again, I think that a lot of the concepts of this chapter make sense if you just understand the vocabulary related to it and be able to give examples with it. But it's important that you be able to understand how to read a population pyramid, as well as how to give examples of the different stages of the DTM, and being able to understand, again, the vocabulary is essential for being able to understand the multiple choice questions on the test. So please let me know if you have any questions. Thank you. Bye-bye.